Happy Wednesday, everybody. I am so grateful that you could join me here today. And we're going to have a little bit of fun. So you're going to hang out with me while I am making a batch of taco chips because I have a client that wants some. And while we do that, we're going to talk about how important it is to be perfect. How important it is to do keto in a way that is flawless, and how we all need to make sure that we never ever make a mistake like me, right? Wrong. Oh my goodness, that is so wrong. So I want to talk to you today about a few keto things. And the first and most important of which is the effort that you put into it. And when I say effort, I'm not talking about being perfect. I am talking about doing the best that you can do. And that's all that anybody can ask of you ever, is for you to do the best that you can do. Yesterday, I had to go to the grocery store, and what I was looking for specifically was baking powder. Just baking powder. I was getting pretty close to running out. And so I picked up a container of baking powder and I went to the till and bought it and came home, and it occurred to me that even though I am the queen of reading every single label for everything that I buy, for some reason it had never occurred to me to read the label on baking powder. So what is baking powder made of? Well, it's made of baking powder. Well, okay. But what is baking powder? Well, it's what you put in cake to make it rise. It's what you put in all kinds of baked goods. That's what it is. It's baking powder. But I'd never read the ingredients. Me, the queen of read the ingredients on everything. I had never read the ingredients. And I was absolutely shocked. If you have a container of baking powder in your cupboard, in your pantry, grab it. Let's take a look at the ingredients, because it turns out that baking powder is not a thing, and I knew that. I mean, chemically I knew that, but it had never occurred to me to find out what it was. Well, there's more than one brand of baking powder in this world, and so every company has their own formula, their own way of doing things. So I checked a couple of different brands. The one that I purchased yesterday, which was a Fleshman's baking powder. Now I'm just going to set that in the fridge for a few minutes, and we're going to make another batch. Okay, so where was I? Baking soda or baking powder. So I got home and I looked at the baking powder that I purchased yesterday. And the baking powder that I purchased, the very first ingredient is sodium acid pyrophosphate. Sodium acid pyrophosphate. What the devil is that? Well, it turns out sodium acid pyrophosphate has been linked to a decrease in people's immune system. It suppresses your immune system if you have too much. How much is too much? I don't know. How much is too much poison? I would say probably any. Is this good for you? No. So what's the second ingredient? Sodium bicarbonate. Well, I know what that is. That's baking soda. So, I mean, that's all good. The third ingredient on this is cornstarch. So that's, now you know that when you look at ingredients, they show up in order of appearance. So the one that has the largest amount in this particular one, in the Fleshman's double acting baking powder, is the one that has sodium acid pyrophosphate first and cornstarch third. Cornstarch, not baking powder, cornstarch. Does it need to be in baking powder? No. Is it a filler? Yes. Does that make this a processed food that's not good for us? Absolutely. But magic baking powder, people have used magic baking powder in Canada for decades. So let's look at the ingredients on that. The very first ingredient is cornstarch. Cornstarch. So, both of these that I have been using in my baking for the last almost 3 years, coming up on 3 years, are neither keto friendly or good for you. Now this one does not have, I can't even say it without looking it up again, sodium acid pyrophosphate. This one has cornstarch, monocalcium phosphate, and sodium bicarbonate. So of the two of them, which is the better one? Well, this is a double acting baking powder, which will be going back to the store, by the way. This is a single acting baking powder, which if you're making something and you're putting it in the oven right away, not a big deal. Depending on what you're making, it isn't going to be a big deal. Here's what is a big deal. I have people quite often refer to me as a keto expert. And I'm very proud of the knowledge that I have when it comes to keto. I don't know everything. Now, if you have been with me for any amount of time, you know that I am telling you all the time, do your research, do your research, do your research. When I started researching baking powder, I didn't find anything that said it wasn't keto friendly. Nothing. I found one obscure post on some message board somewhere. One woman who said, "You're not going to believe this, but I looked at the ingredients in my baking powder and I found out that it's not keto friendly." It's just not something that people think about. It is something that has an effect on what we're doing when we're baking. A huge effect? Maybe not. But any effect is important if you can eliminate it. Now, if you're joining me here this morning, say hi, give me a thumbs up, send me a heart. Let me know who you are and where you're from. I am always so thrilled that you're here. And remember to, click follow and like and subscribe and click all the things and do all the stuff so that we can hang out 3 times a week. Wednesday morning, Friday morning, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain. I will always be here for you. And if you have access to Twitch, if that's something that you do, it's something new that I do, join me on there too. You never know when I'm going to pop up there. Okay, so baking powder. Baking powder is one of the ingredients that I need for making these taco chips for a client that has requested them. So I am adding, now we've done this before, so I'm going to go through this quick. I'm going to add 1 cup of almond flour. I'm going to add 1 cup or a quarter of a cup of coconut flour, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum, and I need a teaspoon of baking powder. So here's what I'm going to do. Don't make a whole lot of this at a time, but this is easy enough to make. Now, if you're making it at home, I'm always doing lots of different things. So I am fortunate that I have access to ingredients that maybe a lot of people don't have at home. I am adding 1 tablespoon of citric acid, and I am adding 2 tablespoons maybe I'm adding 2 tablespoons of baking soda. That's it. That is the entire recipe. The difference between baking soda and baking powder is that baking soda is a single ingredient, sodium bicarbonate. Baking powder is sodium bicarbonate and an acid. So citric acid works. Now, what you are more likely to have at home is, and I got it out here, cream of tartar. And cream of tartar, okay, now this is important. If you're writing this down, make sure that you get this part in there. Cream of tartar, if you're using it, it's 2 parts cream of tartar to 1 part baking soda. If you're using citric acid, it's 2 parts baking soda to 1 part citric acid. So there's a difference in the acidity. So there's a difference in how it works. And it's important to note that this is going to make a single acting baking powder. It's not a double acting baking powder. So Fleshman's, that has that wonderful, again, I'm going to look at the ingredients, sodium acid pyrophosphate, that's not going to do good things for our immune system. That is a double acting baking powder. But you know, most bakeries use a single acting baking powder. You don't need double acting. If it's something that you are working with right away, you can whip this up, 2 teaspoons, there you go. It is just that easy. And I'm going to throw the lid on here. So if you're doing keto, what struggles have you had? Because honestly, this is a struggle that I didn't even know I had. Okay, so we're getting these dry ingredients mixed up really well. And then we are going to add to our measuring cup. Oh, I forgot to add half a teaspoon of salt in here. Okay, there we go. To our dry ingredients, we're going to add 1 egg. Now, if you can get your hands on limes to squeeze at home, please do that. Anything fresh squeezed, fresh done is always way better for you. So I'm adding an egg to this, 3 teaspoons of lime juice, fresh squeezed. I almost always have this in my fridge. And then 1 tablespoon of water. Okay, there's that. And when we mix this up, you definitely will see a difference in what you're doing when you add this to something that has homemade baking powder in it that is actually not filler, no corn. Now we're dump that in there and we're just going to mix this up until our dough comes together. It's just that fast. And once our dough has come together, we're going to clear our workspace and I'm going to start making these tortillas. What is it that you struggle with on keto? Do you struggle with staying away from sugar? Do you struggle with, what is it that you struggle with? Sugar in your coffee? Do you struggle with staying away from pasta? I've said this over and over again. Oh, there's my cream of tartar that I was going to show you. So 2 parts cream of tartar, 1 part baking soda, or 1 part baking soda, or 2 parts baking soda, 1 part or citric acid. Oh my goodness, you maybe want to think twice before you write down exactly what I say today. And just so you know, in my coffee this morning, sugar-free almond flavoring, so I hope you have a steaming cup of coffee as well. Please say hi. If you're here watching, say hi. Let me know where you're from and what it is that you would like to hear me talk about, what it is that you would like to see me make. Tell me what's going on in your life. Are you just starting keto? Are you wanting to start keto? Are you struggling with staying true to a decision that you made? What is it that you're doing, and how is it that we can get together on Wednesdays and Fridays and, okay, come on, get off of there. Wednesdays and Fridays and Sundays and help each other. Because I gotta tell you, every time you guys show up here, you are doing me, oh my goodness. Now, you know what? Here's something that is important to realize. Maybe we don't need exactly the same amount of baking soda or baking powder when it's homemade and it doesn't have all of that filler in it. So there's something for me to think about. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on that. So cut it back a bit. If you are making a cake or making something where you use a teaspoon of baking powder, maybe use 3/4 of a teaspoon. See how that works. But I will tell you that it absolutely does work, and it works with no fillers, no cornstarch. It is amazing to me how many things have fillers in them, and things that you would never expect to see fillers in. Now, I am going to add a little bit more coconut flour to this, and the reason that I'm going to add a little more coconut flour is because coconut flour is very absorbent, and this dough, for whatever reason, just feels a little bit too wet to me today. So I'm going to add a little bit more coconut flour. Not very much, just a wee bit. Now I'm going to show all of you what it is that I'm doing here. Well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. You know, one of these days I'm going to get all of this technology figured out perfectly, but today is maybe not that day. I don't know. So we're going to see if we can't fix this so that I can show you guys what I'm doing here. Hey Aja, I'm glad you could join me this morning. Okay, well, it is what it is, I guess. Yep, one of these days I will get this all figured out, but there is a very real possibility that today is not going to be it. At any rate, I am very glad that all of you could be here to join me, and I am grateful for any of the comments, questions. Let me know. Let me know. There we go. Now you can see what I'm doing and my cup of coffee. Coffee is one of those things that I just do not do mornings without. So I'm going to knead this a little bit, and then I'm going to wrap it up and put it in the fridge and let it rest for a while, because it works much better if you let it rest for a while. Hey Sherry, I'm glad you could be here too. So if either of you are doing keto, thinking about starting keto, what is it that you need to know about? What is it that is a hurdle for you? It seems that it's something different for everyone. With some people, it's sweet food. With some people, it's salty food. With most people, it is giving up some type of carbohydrate. So what type of carb is it that is a struggle for you to give up? You know, maybe it is French fries or pasta or bread, or maybe it's fruit. I don't know. You're the only one that can answer that. But there is a way around pretty much everything. Keto is not about giving up what you love. It's about finding a different way to have what you love. Okay, now this is getting wrapped in plastic wrap, and it is going to go in the fridge for about 10 minutes. And while it's in the fridge, I'm going to bring the other one out because it's rested. It's rested about enough. Now, one of the things I need to do is I need to weigh this. Now, I have started making like a Dorito, a nacho chip, I guess. And I use TSL seasonings on it and bake them, and they are absolutely delicious. Okay, so what we have is 225 grams of dough, and I just put my scale away, and I should not have, because what we're going to do is cut this into 20-gram pieces, and we're not going to cut it all at once, because if you have too much of it sitting out, it's going to dry out, and that's not a good thing. So we'll cut a couple of pieces and see how close we get. That's 19, that's close enough. I want them right around 20, 22 grams, something like that. That's close enough. That's 22. That one isn't going to be quite big enough. So, do you love to cook? Sugar and fried foods, but definitely sugar. And, you know, both of those things are a struggle for many people to give up. Fried foods especially, usually when they're fried, and if you think about this, if you're buying fried food in a restaurant, chances are it's also very salty. So it isn't just the fried food that you're getting, but your mouth, your brain is getting that crunch, it's getting the salty. So when you think about fried foods, think about what it is that you really love about fried foods. And most of the time, it isn't necessarily the fact that it's fried, it's the crunch that it gives it. And 17, we're getting there, 21. Okay, that's 4. I'm going to leave that for now, and I am going to wrap this up so that it doesn't dry out. It's important for you to think about why it is that you love what you love. I don't know why you love what you love. But if you are honest with yourself, you can figure it out. So then the next question is, are you ready to be honest with yourself? And, you know, that is a much more difficult question than you would think. And you're the only one that can answer it. I was in a situation the other day where a person that I know that has some very definite health struggles that are chronic struggles. And when I say chronic, I mean things like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, IBS, things like that, that, you know, we're told when we're diagnosed that these are things that are chronic, incurable diseases that can be managed with medication. We can't cure them, but they can be managed with medication. Okay, well, first of all, these diseases that we are talking about, you can see all my little egg things hanging here too, but maybe you want to see what I'm doing more than that. So I've got my tortilla press out, and we are just pressing these tortillas. Now, I do 20 grams at a time, and the reason that I do 20 grams at a time, good morning, Tammy. The reason that I do 20 grams at a time is because when we cut these, 20 grams lets me cut them in 8 and makes just the perfect size tortilla to cut up for Doritos. So that's, at least for me, that's my opinion. So 20 grams it is. And this tortilla press has absolutely gotten to be one of my favorite kitchen tools. I use it all the time. And I am definitely going to cut the baking powder down in this just a wee bit. These are still going to be wonderful, I think. What are some tips to stay accountable when you're caught up in the guilt and shame of letting yourself down? Okay, I want to tell you a little bit of a story. Now, for those of you who know me, you very possibly know that in August 14th, 2012 at 1 a.m. is when this adventure started. My husband, who is absolutely the light of my life, had a heart attack. And it was terrifying for both of us. And he spent 5 days in the hospital. And when he got out of the hospital, they gave us some very strict rules. Absolutely no salt. Had to cut his sodium down to nothing. And he couldn't have processed foods. There were all kinds of things. It was okay for him to have sugar. It was okay for him to have carbs, but no red meats. And the meat had to be, whatever meat that he did have should be chicken or fish, and he hates fish. So when we got home from the hospital, I was faced with trying to do something for him, cook something for him, make meals for him that would be healthy. And I will tell you that that day, I went to the grocery store that's only a couple minutes from our house, and I stood in an aisle of the grocery store and I cried. Because I looked at everything there was on the shelf, and everything had salt in it, and everything had the things in it that they said not to have. So what did he want? Well, he wanted corn, he wanted steak, he wanted all of the things that, in my mind, if I bought these things for him and I brought them home and cooked them, I would kill my husband. Now, that's ridiculous, and I know that. One meal wouldn't do that. We both had time to learn, but that's how afraid I was. That's how traumatic. Okay, I need a new piece of parchment paper. I've torn this one. That's how traumatic that whole experience was for us. So the reason that I share that with you is because yesterday, when I was at the grocery store and I was looking for baking powder, it didn't occur to me to check the ingredients. And when I found out what I had done, that same panic, that same guilt came back all over again. So in my kitchen, most of the time when I bake, I am baking for my husband. I'm making keto bread for him to take to work. I'm making things for him that are healthy, that are part of his keto journey, which is very different from mine. And I think I made that too small, but that's okay. So that same guilt and fear came back. And so what did I do about it? Well, firstly, I'm talking to you about it this morning. Keeping it bottled up inside is not going to help you. So talk about it. If you need a coach to help you navigate through the keto journey so that you can figure out which way to turn, if you're here, you know how to get hold of me, and I do still have some room in my coaching schedule. So, book a free consultation and we can talk about what that looks like. But be willing to be less than perfect and be willing to learn. And every single time you do something that you find out was not keto, don't look at it as a mistake. Look at it as an opportunity for you to learn something. Pay attention to what your body is telling you, because your body is a pretty amazing thing. And if you allow it to talk to you, you will learn an incredible amount. Okay, now I have these pushed out. So dealing with guilt and shame, figuring out what it is that you're feeling guilty about, figuring out what it is that you're ashamed of, that's important. And figuring out what you can do to change it. I think the most difficult person to be honest with is yourself. Really, it is. And I've talked to you about the fact that I have lost weight, and I'm very, very proud of the weight that I've lost. But the last year has kind of been a little bit stagnant. So why has it been stagnant? Well, that is something that I need to figure out. And it's something that I need to deal with. But if you shove it under the carpet, it doesn't take very long before you've done a lot of damage to yourself by just not facing it head on. If you're feeling guilty about something, the first thing you need to do is identify what it is that you're feeling guilty about. And if you're feeling guilty about, and I have people come to me all the time and say, I just screwed up. I blew my diet. I screwed up. And I asked them if they broke the law. So you're an adult, you're over 18, you are more than capable and entitled to make your own decisions. Okay, now I'm putting about a quarter of a teaspoon of TSL beef taco seasoning, and I just dropped my spoon in there, on each of these tortillas. And then turning them over so I can season the other side. Taco seasoning is one of the things that I was very disappointed about, and so was my husband, when we started doing keto together, because when you go to the grocery store and you buy taco seasoning, it is absolutely not keto friendly. So that was one of the things that we had to navigate around, and eventually I found a fix for it. So, you know, be willing to look for answers, because looking for answers, doing your research, come to me and ask questions. Join me here on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday morning and ask me your questions. That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm here. It is absolutely my goal in life to help other people find the health that my husband and I have found. And being here and asking questions is a great way to do it. Falling off the keto wagon is something that almost everybody does. And I have had people tell me many times that they don't understand how I have stayed so true to keto and haven't swayed from it at all in almost 3 years. So if you're fairly new to being here with me, I am going to share with you part of the reason why that is. Most of the reason that I am so diligent about my keto journey is because one of the things that I figured out very quickly when I started doing this is that I am, without a doubt, a carbohydrate addict. So if, for any of you who know me, you may or may not know that I come from a long line of alcoholics, and I was always a little puffed up that there were people in my family, my dad's family, not as much in my generation, but generations before, most of whom are gone now. This wasn't quite pressed out enough, so I'm just giving it a little bit more. There are people all around me, or that have been around me historically, that have struggled with alcohol addiction. And when I look at them, I can also see that they struggle with carbohydrate addiction, and you can tell by looking at their weight. And when I started this, I was 350 pounds. And the reason I was 350 pounds, everybody knows this. If you are fat, you're fat because you are lazy and you eat too much. That's what we've all been taught. And that's what I believed. So I would beat myself up, thinking that it was my fault. I was a failure. And if I just tried harder, well, I have news for you. If it was as easy as just trying harder, everybody would be thin. Because anybody who has ever struggled with a weight problem. Okay, I dripped my coffee on there, so we're going to get a new one. Anyone who has ever struggled with a weight problem has tried one diet or another. And if you've tried any diet ever, which I'm sure many of you have for whatever reason, whether you were just trying to be more athletic or whatever your reason was, you'll know that those diets were very difficult to stick to. But if you're trying to lose weight, you will also have found out that you can eat exactly the same thing as somebody else, and that person won't gain any weight and you will. Why is that? And the answer is not because you're not trying hard enough. The answer is because excess weight is because of a hormone imbalance. That is a fact. And oftentimes, most times, not always, there are always exceptions to the rule, but most times that hormone imbalance is caused by a diet with way too many excess carbs. So, is that your fault? Not if you've ever seen the Canada Food Guide or the American Food Guide. Pardon me. You will know that we're taught right from the time 1977. So I was in grade 5, grade 6, something like that. Yes, I'm showing my age. I'm going to be 57 in September. And so I've been taught right from the time I was a small child that you limit the amount of meat, you almost get rid of any fat in your diet, and you eat carbohydrates and lots of fresh fruit and vegetables. And the fact that it is fresh fruit and vegetables drives me crazy, because they are absolutely not in the same category, and a lot of what we're calling vegetables are not vegetables. Peas are not vegetables, they are legumes. Corn is not a vegetable. Corn is a grain. And yet, we've been taught that these things that will do a tremendous amount of damage to our body are good for us. So when you're doing something because that's what you were taught, you can't blame yourself for thinking that it's true. Well, I guess you can. I did. I blamed myself for years. But it's not because you are doing anything wrong. It's because you are doing what you were taught to do, and what you were taught was wrong. So if you were given bad information, what are you going to do about it? You have a choice. And this person that I was talking about, I started telling you a story. So I saw somebody who was absolutely struggling with a lot of different health conditions, and at an event that I was at, this person collapsed. And I had been speaking about keto earlier, and the reaction that I got was, "Nope, I'm not interested, no thank you." And I said, "All right," and I walked away. And it was shortly after that because of what that person had been taught, the same as what I had been taught, this incident occurred. You have to respect people's right to make a choice. I'm not the keto police. And you don't need me to be the keto police. And you don't need to be your own keto police. You need to be your own hero. You need to be your own health partner. You need to decide what you want your health to look like. And it really, as oversimplified as that sounds, it really is that easy. So what is it that you want to accomplish for yourself? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to decrease your blood pressure? Do you want to prevent, I was just listening to someone that I very much respect, Dr. Ken Berry, talking about cataracts and the benefits that they're finding for keto on preventing cataracts, or even possibly reversing them. You know, there's so much that we don't know, but there's a lot that we do know. And one of the things that I do know is that I have started a 3-day fast. And I am doing it with my mom. And is a 3-day fast a horrible, hard thing to do? You know what? The hardship in a 3-day fast is not in actually not eating and giving nourishment to your body, because I mean, you look at me, you can tell I have lots of stores in there. I've told people for a long time I still have a Big Mac from 1992 stored right back there somewhere, that put it in storage in case I ever needed that energy, and here I am still hanging on to it. So I'm not going to starve to death. So the difficult part about doing a 3-day fast, or a 5-day fast, or a 24-hour fast, or whatever fast you're planning on doing, the most difficult part about that is in your mind. and in your mouth, because your mouth wants flavor. So you find ways to work around that. It's no different than, oh, itchy eye. It's no different than finding ways to deal with ADHD. And I've done that for years, sometimes with some things successfully, with other things not so successfully. But you keep trying. And beating yourself up, thank you, Aja, I love you right back. Beating yourself up for not being perfect is never going to be beneficial. It won't. So, think about a rose. Think about any flower, any tree. They are beautiful in their imperfection. And so are you. All of you. We all are. So, rather than beating yourself up, ask what you can do to make yourself a little bit better. Use it as a learning opportunity. And I need to weigh some of this before I get my tortilla press all busy again. So every single day is an opportunity to learn. Every single day is an opportunity to get better. And every single day is an opportunity for you to listen to your body and what it's telling you. When you wake up in the morning, do your knees hurt? Do your shoulders hurt? Are your hands aching? Why is that happening? Let's look for some answers. And if you haven't started keto yet and you've been thinking about it, I promise you that is most definitely your body talking to you. So the question is, not is your body talking to you, because it definitely is. The bigger question is, are you going to listen? And that's a choice. And if you absolutely are not willing to give up whatever it is you're not willing to give up, then you've made a choice and you just need to own it. Feeling guilty about it is not going to be beneficial. I have family members who I would absolutely love to see them doing keto. They're both in their 80s. And I know exactly how beneficial it would be for them. I also know that for their own reasons, it's not something that they're interested in. So, I respect that. It's no different than someone who is a cancer patient choosing not to have treatment. It is a choice, and it's their choice, and we all have to respect it. So, your decision is, what is it that you want to learn from your body? Or do you just want that burger at McDonald's, or that extra beer on Friday night? Or what is it that you do want? And you have to decide that. So, don't do guilt. Do you. And be the best version of you that you can be. And that does not necessarily include keto today. Maybe today what that means is that you are going to start listening to your body. Maybe that's what it means. And if that's what it means, then do that. You've got this. And when you have questions and you want to know if something is or isn't keto, come hang out with me here. And feel free to book that. There it is. Feel free to book that consultation with me. Or find a friend or family member that is doing keto, because having someone do it with you is hugely beneficial. Years ago, my husband and I both smoked, and we wanted to quit. And I would love to tell you that we both have got such incredibly strong willpower that we just went cold turkey and never touched it again, but that would be a complete and total lie. We used a product called Zyban. And when we went to our doctor, and this was, I know there are other products on the market now, but this was before that. This is 20 years ago? 19 years ago. So when we went to our doctor, he said, are you both going to quit? Because if only one of you does it, it won't work. Now that was a little bit of a different thing, because you definitely can do keto by yourself. I did. For the first 6 months, Del was not doing keto. He was, however, very supportive. And I strongly encourage you to make it well known to the people around you that they don't have to do it, but they do have to respect the fact that you are doing it and not give you grief about it. So if that means, when you have a barbecue, you're not going to be eating the potato salad, or you are not going to be, one of the things that I did right at the very beginning of my keto journey, and it honestly never occurred to me. I was at a family event, and at our family event, there was people drinking, and we were all having a good time. And 3 or 4 times, I had people come to me and say, have a shooter. I made shooters. Have a shooter. Well, I didn't get drunk. I didn't have very much. I had a couple on this day and a couple on that day, and I thought I had done really well. I had not eaten one thing, to the best of my knowledge, that wasn't keto. So I'd done awesome, right? Should be very proud of myself. Except when I stepped on the scale at the end of that weekend, I had gained 5 pounds. What the heck? How is that even possible? And so I took a minute to be mad at myself and disappointed in myself, and felt guilty and didn't want to tell my husband that I had screwed up. But what I realized was that I hadn't been thinking so much about what I was drinking. Now, if I was at a family event again today, would I still have one of those shooters? No, I wouldn't. Would it be hard to say no? Yep, it would absolutely be difficult to say no, because they are sweet. Not because I need a drink, not because I want to be guzzling down something just because it has alcohol in it, but because it is sweet, and I am a carbohydrate addict. I am a sugar addict. And I recognize that about myself, and recognizing that has been very beneficial. Not recognizing it, I would still be struggling with a lot of things. So that really is the key. And be willing to learn all the time. I have spent literally over 2,000 hours studying keto, taking courses, learning, so that I can not only help myself, but help you. It's what I do. It's what I love. And even though that's true, when I came home with that baking powder yesterday, I found out that I don't know everything. Not that there was any question about that, but that baking powder was a real kick in the pants for me, because I felt like that was something that I should have known. And do you know that I have been babbling on here for almost an hour? So this morning, you guys have been very therapeutic for me, and I hope that something that I have had to say will be a benefit to you. And I also hope that on Friday morning at 10 a.m. you will be here with me. And I just ripped that tortilla. Oh well. Again, something that is not perfect, but it will be delicious. I will be here Friday morning, and Friday morning will be day 3.5 of my fast. So join me and watch for some quick little Facebook Lives. I'll keep you posted on my 3-day fast and let you know how it's going. And I hope all of you have an absolute absolutely amazing rest of your week and do your very best to live your best version of this shining life. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to keep learning, and I hope you do too. Do your recipe. Book a consultation with me if that's what's going to help you. But join me here Friday morning, 10 a.m. Click like, subscribe, notify, do all the things and all the stuff so that we can hang out here together 3 times a week. I will talk to you very soon. Oh, I will tell you before I go. These, I am going to bake these at 275 for about half an hour. I do it until they're crunchy. They're a nice golden brown and crunchy, and yeah, they turn out beautifully. So, I will have some of these ready on Friday, probably. We'll see. Have an awesome week. Thank you again for joining me. And I am going to go and do my best to make my best version of these chips for my class.